generally here. It's very difficult to move beyond this if you're away from the wall, unless you were to open the hip. Opening the hip gives you a lot more space. Isn't necessarily wrong, but I don't think it does what the pose is supposed to do. But if you're at the wall and work here, this leg can get to here without rotating. Everything I'm teaching you, if you can only remember one thing, a strong foundation changes everything in the pose. Do you think you'd be able to open the pelvis if you were using Padabandha? No. If you're using Padabandha and pushing through the sole of your front foot and the top of your back foot, your femur bones will naturally move toward the acetabulums and your pelvis will get pulled to neutral and then your spine will lengthen. All because of the action of the feet. I'll do right foot first. My right foot will stay down with my toes forward. My left leg will lift up. And toes could either be tucked, especially if you're kind of from a distance, but the closer you get, you're going to start working on bringing the top of the foot to the wall. So right now my knee is bent, and I'm going to start using Padabandha, and it's also when my knee is bent, not because my knee is bent, but just because I'm not using Padabandha yet, my pelvis kind of wants to open here. It'd make it a whole lot easier to extend that knee if my pelvis was open. But if I start to press through my feet and really resist the wall and the floor with equal force, you can see my pelvis gets pulled into neutral alignment. It's so strong that it almost feels like I can just pick up my right foot off of the ground. And then when I add that pressure, I create more space. I can get closer to the wall if I push versus rest and open. I can still get a lot of depth by pressing. And then when you exit, kind of reverse it as best as you can until you feel you have enough space to take that foot off the wall. Kind of somewhere in between everything, I'm going to start working my front foot forward, and I'm going to start working my back foot backward. Front foot forward, back foot backward. I've used pretty much the whole space of my mat. I probably won't use my blanket today because I don't know if I'll get much further than this. Once I get here, I'm going to spread my toes, press from big toe to outer blade, pinky toe to inner blade. She'll probably bring me a little taller at first, but then if I press the ground away, I can get a lot deeper. So if we're working on being more upright, I'm going to use my blocks under my hands. Maybe I even try taking a block under my thigh and try pressing to lift. And do you get more from the pose if you're on the ground? A lot of people want to get to the floor just because they're in the splits then if they're on the floor, but their hips are open. Are you getting more out of the pose? Or are you getting more of the pose if you're squaring, pressing, and squeezing? And pulling, I don't know if I ever want to get all the way down to the ground and be able to rest on the ground again. I like a little space under me.